Let's bring in our legal team, Nancy Grace, the host of HLN's Nancy Grace, and GMA legal analyst Dan Abrams. Thanks to both of you. And Nancy, let me begin with you. We've seen that this interview by Coach Sandusky has enraged some of the victims and their families, mystified most of us. Can you understand what strategy might be behind this?
Well, I can tell you this, it's bad strategy. Number one, any defense attorney will tell you never, 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 A, speak to police or comment on your case. This is one of the reasons. It has infuriated crime victims all over the country, including myself, because I'm looking at a 23-page grand jury presentment. The New York Times now says that there are up to 18 child victims, and his words were, "It's not my fault." When I think of, for instance, a protest going in support of Paterno, the protest should be over a child being anally sodomized in a shower. That should be the protest.
I think a lot of us agree with that, but Dan, it also seemed that even though he denied committing any crimes, he did incriminate himself in this interview.
Well, sure, to some degree, but look, he'd be happy to get away with whatever crime he may have committed for, quote, horsing around with kids in the shower. He's facing much more serious crimes than that. So from his perspective, we're now seeing the linchpin of the defense, which is this word horsing around. Why are they using that word? Because in that grand jury presentment, you saw one of the Penn State officials say that his impression was that this was horsing around. So that's what's led now to these exact and important words being used.
And you pointed out something earlier.
I disagree. It's much more serious. He is not only, he's placing himself at the location of the crime, at the time of the crime, with the alleged victim that has come forward. He's all but admitted everything that's going on. It's more than some degree. He has placed himself at the scene of the crime at the time.
Well, no, but the difference is, you know, like in the Michael Jackson case, right? I mean, he was basically saying, yes, I slept in bed with boys. Yes, I did certain things. But the bottom line is I didn't commit the actual crime that they're accusing me of, and he was acquitted. That's very different. Look, the word Nancy used about what he's accused of doing to this boy is far more serious than the idea of playing with someone in the shower. I mean, that's not the problem here. The problem we're talking about is rape. I mean, let's be clear.
But how significant would it be, both of you, Dan and Nancy, if indeed, as the attorneys seem to suggest, this young man backs up Sandusky's claim? Nancy?
Well, look, the lawyer for Sandusky can say whatever he wants to. But this young man went to the grand jury. You're under oath at a grand jury. I don't care what some defense attorney twisted around to say to the press. A 23-page presentment to a grand jury, now reportedly 18 victims. Somebody's not denying it, including this guy.
Some of it is victims, but a lot of it is witnesses who said what they saw. The problem is the consistency of the accounts, the number of the accounts, and the way that he was grooming them. When you read the grand jury presentment, again, it's so consistent in the way that they explain his conduct.
And these will all be brought in a single trial.
That's right.
And you know another thing, Dan and George, you know what's driving me crazy is the people at Second Mile. These two, Genovese and Rakovich, that were running it, they made about $250,000 a year off that charity. They claimed they got suspicious in 2008. No. They were told back in 2002, according to the dates, that something was horribly wrong. And they waited all this time. How many other children may have been anally sodomized in those 6 years?
A lot of blame to go around here.
And one of the things we're seeing now is apparently Coach Paterno never spoke to Coach Sandusky about any of these charges.
Well, that's what Sandusky says.
Yeah, Sandusky
I don't know that I would necessarily rely on what Sandusky says about what happened.
If it's true?
If it's true that Paterno never said anything to him, look, I mean, that's a problem. Meaning it's more of a moral problem. Remember, we have to separate out. There's the legal lane and there's the moral lane. And I think that a lot of this that we're focusing on is in the moral lane, which is why didn't more people do anything more?
No question about it. But it's also led to some calls, Nancy, for legal reform, making it a requirement for anyone at a college to actually go to the police if they witness or get any report of anything like this. It's not a legal requirement right now in many states.
Absolutely. That requirement is already on, for instance, elementary school teachers, high school teachers, and public schools. And it should be here too. And another thing, everybody says, I reported it, I report it. That's fine and well. But when you look out your window at work and you see Sandusky still out there, you know he hasn't been arrested.
Nancy Grace, Dan Abrams, thank you both very much.